if I match this pretty curve here, then my coffee's going to be the best tasting. And that just like isn't true all the time. Hey, welcome back to another Black City coffee vlog. All right, Dev, you have some questions for us. Well, I hope everybody had a wonderful holiday over the weekend.
Yet it tastes so sour, like super acidic.
193. I don't know what the hell that is. 379. Okay. Yeah, you're right. So Dev is just saying he had a roast. He was tasting it. He's running really small batches on his 500 gram on a 2 kilo roaster. And I was like, if you're gonna run such a small batch size on your roaster that it's not really suited for that, it's really hard to base decisions based on data, because the data it's collecting is sort of unreliable, because the batch size is not conducive to the ideal batch size. So the probes are not going to be able to give you a correct reading. They're going to give you an off reading because the batch sizes are off. Okay, so just know that. I think, sometimes we learn this stuff, or we know this stuff, but maybe it hasn't really translated into how we're actually doing things, which I don't know why sometimes that happens. I do it all the time, so don't feel bad. It's just that if we don't sort of have a way to get outside of what we're doing sometime and have like an unbiased look at what we're doing, you can kind of get like tunnel vision and just kind of forget like, oh, duh, yeah, Okay, so he was saying that in this irregular, smaller batch size in his huge, not huge, but like larger machine, the coffee, when it drops, he was dropping it at 379, And he's like, man, this coffee is so sour, So it's basically underdeveloped, highly, highly underdeveloped. So if your finishing temp is like under 385, I think to me 385 is like the bare minimum for a finishing temp for a light roasted coffee, considering everything else was good or like developed, you know what I mean, in the roast. So yeah, good way, Dev, on calling yourself out and being like, yeah, I figured it out. This is why it tastes sour, which is perfect. Like, this is why, I make videos. It's like that, like this, because if you're going to be your best teacher, not you, Dev, but like, yes, you, Dev, but in a way I'm saying that to myself too. Like every time I make a video, it's like, who are these videos for? They're for me because I'm learning. And I think in order for me to learn, I just need to go through the motions and sort of teach myself and make mistakes like this and go, why does this shit taste sour? Okay, let's look at the data. All right, now considering, yes, it's not the ideal, batch size and all that stuff. Okay, so I've considered that. I acknowledge that. But also, yeah, let's look at our finishing temp, 379. If I'm wanting to develop this coffee more, so and maybe I don't know what that tastes like, I'll go, okay, I need to finish this at a higher temperature. Maybe I don't know that I'm looking for 385, but that can be my next goal. So try again at 385 while still trying to keep it light. Okay, let's see what that tastes like. And then try 390. Okay, see what that tastes like. 395, 400. All right. So since taste is all subjective, if we take all of these numbers, we have it's kind of just a guideline, not a rule, a guideline. But like 385, yeah, you can kind of be okay with that as a light roast finishing temp. And then and you could also argue that a light roast can be finished at 400. Okay? It just depends on what the coffee can do, right? What it's capable of. Can it handle going to a finishing temp of 400 and still being a light roast? For maybe an high density Ethiopian coffee, that may be true, but maybe for a natural low elevation coffee, it might be this temperature. Okay? And I've done both. All right? And we know this from what? Cupping it. We got to cup it to say definitively for whatever coffee that we're roasting at the time. We got a low elevation natural process coffee, and we've cupped it. Maybe it's 387 is the final finishing temp for that coffee to taste a certain way. All right, based on what you want to put out there as a roaster or a brand or a business or a company, okay? It's what the cup is telling you. So you go, hey, this shit is sour. Why? Because the finishing temp is this, 379.4 that you gave me, right? Okay, what do we need to do? Yeah, you got it. You nailed it. Good on you. All right. What other crazy questions do you have? All right. So he's telling me he's got rows, really pretty curves and stuff. And like everybody wants to trace these curves and they want pretty curves and all this stuff. And in my experience, and like the roasters who I like to learn from, which is not Rao. No disrespect to Rao. He has his methods, and I think his methods work for what he needs them to work for. And he has an audience and certain types of software and certain types of machines that he likes to work with. Now, what's unfortunate is maybe the message of like somebody like Dev or somebody like me, for example, will look at that and see that as like the golden standard or something. It's not true. It's kind of like an unwritten sort of rule, because the squeaky wheel gets the grease sort of situation. Like, I think it's great what Rao did. I think he wrote a book. There was a voice when the industry needed it for roasters, and he gave, unfortunately, he wrote in a tone that was like, this is the Bible of roasting, which is just not the case. Like, in my experience, it's like, hey, roast the coffee, use all your senses, use data, use tools to help you make decisions, but in the end, you're going to be cupping on the table and learning to taste for things that you want in the cup and learning to adjust your machine as needed. That's all it is. And if I talk to people from all sorts of levels in their coffee industry, and the people that I like to learn from, they're kind of humble about what they do. I think they understand that, to me, I think their philosophy matches my philosophy, which is it's all about what's in the cup. It's about just being kind of like objective about what the coffee is. Data is a really nice tool. You can have really fancy tools, or you can have kind of rudimentary tools. You can have wonky probes. You can have a machine made from China. You can have a machine made from your, DIY machine, garage. You can pop some coffee on your stove, or you can have a Mill City roaster, or you can have a Loring, but in the end, it's really about what's in the cup. And then are you able to, from machine to machine, just learn how to control that machine? Because roasting, like specialty coffee roasting like this, to me is just like making sure I know how to control my machine. I know what my machine can do. I know its limitations. I know where it excels. I know it can do this. I know it can do that. And I have a software that can document the data just like this. Dev is talking about an ROR that like really reaches high like this, and really trying to like match this, right? If I match this pretty curve here, then my coffee's going to be the best tasting. And that just like isn't true all the time. You have to take it step by step. You can kind of work backwards and go like, okay, I'm looking for this in the coffee because it's this varietal from this origin and this processing. So I'm going to use that knowledge when I go to the roaster and treat it as such. Then I'm going to taste it. And then I'm going to see where it falls flat or if it tastes good or whatever. And then I'm going to analyze where it tastes good, where it doesn't, and then adjust my roasting. So this can give me a clue as to what to do at the roaster, right? I'm talking about the roast curve here. But being too attached to a pretty curve I just don't think I've really kind of like gone against, not against, but just like reminded, I think, my audience that pretty curves aren't 100% way of getting the best coffee. You know, it's his way. You know, I'm sure Rao, like, I've been to one of his cupping sessions, and he's still cupping all the damn time. And he's telling you, like, yeah, you can taste this little dip, or if it dips like this, or you can taste this little bump and all this stuff. And yeah, that could be true for that particular coffee, for this particular machine, for that particular like software and his palette and all that stuff. But bottom line, like, taste is subjective, and there's a lot of fluff around it, I feel. But to beat yourself up about it, I think that's a waste of time. It's a waste of time to beat yourself up about pretty perfect curves. Taste the coffee. And if you're not getting what you want to taste in there, then you go back, you go change it. And whatever it looks like, whatever your curve looks like, if it tastes good, that's what it looks like. Okay? And remember, if it tastes good, that's subjective to you. You're in a whole other country. You know, I think maybe palates can be different. Like we just talked about in the last video, China's palate is very ferment forward. They like that stuff, you know? And but if you talk to our like specialty Q graders here in America, they're like, no, this is not specialty. This is just fermented. So it's like, where are we coming from? What's our goal with this coffee? Let's cup it. All right. Do we like it? Is this going to sell? Do our customers like it? Right? Not, is the curve perfect? I mean, I would think if you're in the business of coffee, you would ask, do my customers like it? They don't give a crap about what the curve looks like, honestly. Okay, next.
I followed this guy for a long time, and his contents and details are really helpful. But then obviously he doesn't say how he does it. So as you can see in the graph and all, it's like.
I've been there though. I've been where you are. It's like, oh, you know, if I have this perfect curve, I'll have the perfect coffee. It's just not true, brother. It ain't true. Maybe sometimes it's true, but it ain't true all the time. Okay. That's my philosophy. I don't roast curves. I roast coffee. Like, if you get a great curve and it's backed up by good flavor, like, awesome, great. But if it's great flavor and it's maybe not the prettiest curve or whatever, then be, you know, happy for that too. I hope you can be. Okay. And let me give you a few little things about Rao or anybody who's posting curves, even me. Okay. You don't know what I'm doing or what one can do to the data to make it look a certain way. Now, I've never roasted a coffee that looks like this, and he is using a different roasting software. Okay, so Artisan versus Roast Path versus Cropster versus Roast Star. You know, there's all kinds of roasting softwares out there. And they, even Ikawa is so weird the way I look at it. The way that it's interpreting the data, and even smoothing this ROR out in such a way that could be adjusted. How many readings it's taking for the ROR? Is it every 30 seconds or is it every minute like it should be or something like that, right? But yeah, I mean, you don't know what software they're using, so there could just be that little thing. And then plus the probes. How accurate are the probes, like I just talked about, right? Like, I remember when I was having the same frustrations as you, Dev, and I was like, why doesn't my curves look like yours? And that's just really not the right question, you know? If I'm chasing a curve and I'm not chasing great tasting coffee, then I feel like it's a waste of my time. Or I'm just a little misguided. It's not a waste of time. Nothing's a waste of time. But it's just a little misguided, I think, in my philosophy of roasting coffee. You can have whatever philosophy you want. If it's pretty curves, fine. Cool. I don't care. It's your coffee. You know what I mean? I'm just telling you, like, I don't think you should beat yourself up for not having pretty curves if you're doing all the other things. Right? If you're tasting it, if your customers like it, you know, you're doing all the things. Pretty curves are great, you know. I try to get pretty curves still. I'm like, it's not about getting pretty curves. It's like, am I controlling my roaster? Am I getting this to elongate and not dip down? Am I having control over my machine? You know, that's what it means to me if I have a pretty curve. But having it so high like this, yeah, I've been there too, man. I'm just like, how are you getting it that high or whatever? Yeah, it's a higher charge temp, or it's running the right batch sizes. It's having a machine that can actually do that for you, have that type of responsiveness, right? It's so he's doing a little bit of a soak. So it could be a different way of different structure of the machine, since there's no crazy transparency in how he does this, or if he's actually doing it. Or there's no way that we can actually taste this too most of the time, unless you like pay for a class. Then you can maybe taste some coffee, but I don't know. There's just a lot of weird, like, not super transparent one-to-one data comparison. So that's why I just wouldn't put all of your eggs in one basket for this type of like goal. Okay, Dev? Like, it's cool. You could do whatever you want. And Rao is doing the best that he can to serve the coffee community in whatever he's doing. But just everybody has their own philosophy. This is his. Now it's time for you to make your own. And just know that curves are curves. You can choose to roast the coffee. You can choose to taste the coffee. And if you get what you want from the coffee without placing so much value on this curve, I think you might find yourself a little bit more at ease. Now, I didn't want to write all this. I've been like writing you back in the DMs, but I don't know. It's a lot. That's just my feelings on it. That's just my opinion. Take it or leave it. I really don't care. Because I don't want coffee roasting to be like political and crap. Please. It's just roast your coffee, you know. Do what you need to do. This goes out to everybody. You know what I'm saying? Like, roast your coffee. Do your thing. Do your thing. And as long as you're tasting the coffee, I mean, if it's dope, like, cool. All right. All right. That's it. Okay. Hope that helps. See you in the next one. Bye.